although college is of great concern to you. Maybe the Notre Dame hook got some of you to come in the door, which whatever works. I'll tie it all together with a lot of Notre Dame stories. And the first one I'll start off with is Father Heshberg was the president of Notre Dame for 35 years, from 1957 to whatever, add on 35 years, all right? He was the president when I was there. And I honestly think this is one of the reasons JSerra hired me after I retired from Notre Dame last year, is that Father Heshberg had one prayer. He only had one prayer that he would ever pray. Anytime he said, Father Heshberg, would you say the prayer? He said, yes, I will. So, in honor of Father Heshberg, we'll start off with a prayer in the name of the Father, the Son, Holy Spirit. Amen. Come, Holy Spirit. In the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Amen. It did him very well for his entire life of 97 years, so I'm not going to mess with it. And he said it brought him clarity every time he said it. He goes, the rest of the words, Tony, it just, I don't need it. So, come Holy Spirit. So anyway, I thank you all for being here. My name is Tony Roberts, and we're here to talk about, it's called the College Talk. Some of you heard about it through Lion Lowdown. Some of you heard about it through maybe an email from the principal. Some of you may have heard about it from, I send out like a monthly letter, and it probably went into your spam folder right away. It's 4 things to ponder about JSerra. If you read it that place, raise your hand. Again, not so many. It's in your spam folder. It's sitting there. And it talked about the College Talk. Anyway, one of the things I want to start off with is that we want to, and there is plenty of space up here if you need seats. Just come and sit down. You don't need to sign in. Just have a seat. Have a seat. We'll take care of it. And there's going to be a quick little life lesson here. So if you would look underneath your chair, see if you have anything underneath your chair. And just pull it out if you have anything underneath your chair. Make sure, I know it's someplace. And if there's a vacant chair next to you, you might want to look at it. If you find anything under the chair, she has one right there. Okay, go ahead and have a seat. Have a seat. If you have an envelope, raise your hand. I've got one envelope here. I think the people right in that area ought to look under their chairs right in that area. I just think you ought to look. Now we have one back there. Okay, there we have one right here. So what did we learn from this lesson? First off, she has 20. He has how much? Open it.
I didn't know they had 10,000.
He has 10. He has 10. And what did you get back there? $5. So the lesson is, don't be shy when you come to events. Sit in the front row, right? You get paid off in many different ways and in increments. So, but at least it's good enough to show up. If you show up and get in the last seat, you're going to get something in life, all right? So please stick with that. So I was thinking back, one of the things that I wanted to talk about is if you think back to the caveman times, all right? And you think about how did people learn things? They didn't have books, right? They didn't have schools, okay? But somehow they learned how to fish, how to hunt, how to survive. And the way I always think about it, if I lived back then, it was the elders, right? The elders who would take the young kids under their wing and teach them how to fish and to hunt and to survive. I'm officially in that category. I'm one of those elders, all right? So I'm talking to the students, but I'm honestly talking to the parents as well. I've lived this, I've done this, my kids have gone through this, I've got experience, and the goal tonight is what all of you believe is a very stressful time in your life as you're getting ready to prepare for high school and then for college. Relax, okay? Relax, and we'll get into it. I will refer to it later on that God does have a plan for you, okay? And the way I'm going to go into this is to talk, I'm going to share a lot of, you're going to know a lot more about Tony Roberts than you ever wanted to know, okay? And I'll start off with my Notre Dame story. And as I told everybody in the invitation, I'm going to use a lot of Notre Dame anecdote stories, okay? But everything I'm going to talk about applies to any college that you can even imagine, all right? So don't think that you don't have to end up at Notre Dame. You do not have to end up in Notre Dame. If you want to, God bless you, okay? Okay, so I was born in Nebraska, but I actually grew up in eastern Oregon, next to Boise, Idaho, on a small little town called Ontario, Oregon. To show you how old I am, Boise State University was Boise State Junior College. It was just like Saddleback Junior College back in the day. So a lot of things have happened in 40 plus years. My older brother went to Notre Dame, and he graduated in 1971. That was the last of the all-male classes. Notre Dame's only been co-ed since 1972. This is their 50th anniversary. Please grab any seats. You've got plenty of space. Jump in there. And so he went to Notre Dame. The first time I ever saw it at Notre Dame, it was his graduation. I must have been 12, 13 years old. There's plenty of space. Just jump in. We've got space over here. And so I remember the first thing, beautiful campus. If you haven't visited there, please do. It's 2 hours out of Chicago, and you'll love it. It's just gorgeous. But I also felt it was very spiritual. So I ended up, and here's where I want you to learn from your elders to not do certain things. I only applied to 2 schools, okay? Huge mistake, okay? Don't do that to yourself. That's way too much pressure to throw on yourself. I would recommend that somewhere you're going to apply to between 5 and 15 colleges, all right? And I hope by April of your senior year that at least 7 colleges have said yes to you, and you get to sit down and relax, say, that's where I want to go. Because my ultimate goal for all of you is that when you're 65 like I am, I want you to have the same passion for your college that I do, that I want to get up and talk about it, right? And there are so many great universities out there and colleges. That's where you want to end up. It's the right place for you. Don't do it because it's a brand name. Don't do it because the 20 other kids, your friends are going there. Do it because it's the right place for you. Just relax and say, there's the right fit for you. So anyway, I applied to West Point and I applied to Notre Dame. Now I had a strategy there. Okay? I knew that if I got accepted into West Point, I'd be able to get an Army ROTC scholarship that would pay for Notre Dame. I was fortunate. Now you have to think historically though, military is not very popular back in the 70s. Okay, so it sounds great that, yeah, Tony, you got into West Point. Okay, it was 79. Not a lot of people were trying to get into the military at that point in time on the heels of Vietnam. Okay, that's just, you live in the time you live, and so you take advantage of the situation, you take advantage. So I actually went to Notre Dame on an Army ROTC scholarship. If you ever want to talk about military scholarships, come talk to me, okay? It was a great experience for me. First off, it paid for everything. The Army paid, back then, if you did 4 years, they'd pay for 4 years of school, you owed the Army 4 years. I think now the deal is they pay for 4 years of school, you owe them 5 years, okay? But it was a great experience for me. I got a business management degree, went into the military. If you check your history books from 79 to 85, we weren't at war with anybody. It was the most peaceful time in the history of our country. It was unbelievable. I didn't even get restationed. I spent all 6 years, because I stayed in for an extra 2 years, because I picked up a master's degree, and the Army paid for that, okay? So, great experience from a maturity point of view. At the age of 22, I didn't have my stuff together, okay? But the military allowed me to do that. So if the military is right for you guys, let me know, okay? And I can point you in the right direction. So then I went into what some people call the civilian military, Procter & Gamble. If you ever go in the grocery store, Tide, Cheer, Bowl, Pampers, Love, Folgers Coffee, all those brands Procter & Gamble makes. So they hire me, they moved me to Houston, to Kansas City, out to Mission Viejo back in 1991. So I've been out here 31 years now. 3 kids. All 3 kids went to Mission Viejo High School. My oldest son, Robbie, he went to San Diego State, married a San Diego State girl. They're now teachers in Fort Worth, Texas. He's a biology teacher. She's a middle school principal, 2 gorgeous little redheaded grandkids, 8 and 6-year-old. My daughter, to show you that kids sometimes replicate the same mistakes that their parents do, she only applied to 2 schools. Now, I'm gonna use some terms here that some of you have heard, and we'll get back to it. You're gonna hear different terms as you go through the process of early action, restricted early action, regular action. And that simply talks about when you apply for college during your senior year. Early action and restricted early action means that you're gonna apply by November 1st of your senior year, and they will tell you before Christmas, did you get in, right? Regular action means you apply by January 1st, and they'll tell you by, I always say St. Patrick's Day, just because of Notre Dame and all that stuff. So around March 15th, you'll know if you got into that college. So, and the rules back then were different when she applied, but she applied early action to NYU and to Notre Dame. And I remember vividly, the letters came back on the same day in December, okay? And Notre Dame had waitlisted her. I'm sorry, Notre Dame had deferred her, which simply means they take the application and they throw it into the regular action pool so she would find out in March if she got in. NYU said yes, which is great, okay? Great options. So she's excited, but she still kind of wanted Notre Dame, so she kept her name in the hopper for Notre Dame. Comes to March 15th, she gets to Notre Dame, she gets waitlisted. Now waitlisted means you're acceptable to Notre Dame or whatever college you're at, but they don't have enough space for you. There's just not enough numbers of the acceptance class. And so she didn't find out until June 10th of her senior year. She gets a call from Notre Dame. It says, Tiffany, you cleared the wait list, you have 10 days to decide. Okay, at this point, everything she's wearing is NYU, all right, everything. And as a parent, I'm thrilled. I mean, there is no bad decision in this process. I mean, she's got 2 great choices. She loves drama, and if you love drama and she wanted to be behind the scenes, what's better than NYU? She kind of knew I was a little biased towards Notre Dame, but that's okay. So she finally came to me like on the 9th day, said, Dad, what do you think? I said, well, if all you care about is getting ahead of your fellow high school classmates in the game of life, like who gets the first great job, who gets the biggest apartment right away, and all you care about is comparing yourself to your high school classmates, go to NYU. NYU is like you're in the biggest city, okay, you're gonna mature very quickly, okay, you're gonna have internships beyond belief, but if you want a college experience, you want football weekends, if you want dorm life, because you don't get dorm life at NYU. You're living downtown in an apartment, okay? It's not even a dorm. And that's not critical, that's just reality. So she ended up choosing Notre Dame, and I told her, you can always do a big city later. You're never gonna wanna do the reverse. Once you get used to a big city, it's hard to go back to the small town, okay? It just is. So she chose Notre Dame, graduated, went to Boston for her first job. Went to Boston University, picked up her master's degree, and so she got, and if you haven't been to Boston, wow, you've got to go see that as a potential student. They have 30 universities, all within 30 miles, okay? It is student heaven, okay, in terms of the social life and everything, and great education, okay? We have seats up here if you guys want to come up front, or just, you can get them 2 more seats. Thank you. So, she ended up going there, and Notre Dame, we think we have a great brand name, a strong brand name. She ended up dating and marrying a young man who got into MIT. Now, he wasn't even attending MIT grad school, and he already had offers from Facebook, Google, SpaceX, and Tesla, just on the power of that name. Now, he's a smart kid. I was thankful. He ended up taking SpaceX, brought him out here to the West Coast, 2 little grandkids, a 6- and a 4-year-old, so life is good. So normally, and I should have let you know, the largest group that I've given in terms of a college talk has been 12 kids. Okay, so this is on steroids, what showed up today, which is great. And normally, it's one-on-one that I'll do these things. So when I do them, I usually say, okay, who knows what a legacy student is? So I'm not gonna, you'll have 20 different answers. My definition of a legacy student is, a legacy is the college or university gives some type of preferential treatment, but don't take that word wrong, to the kids of a graduate. So my children have they're legacy students at Notre Dame. It doesn't count if your grandparents are, it's only parents to children, okay? So my youngest son, who loved Notre Dame, wanted to go there. He was a legacy student, a three-sport athlete at Mission Viejo High School. 1480 on his SAT, 4.4 GPA. I was, at that time, the alumni club president for Notre Dame. His sister was at Notre Dame. I'm thinking pretty good chance, right? Rejected, okay? And all of you are saying, well, way to bring me down, Mr. Roberts. What chance do I have? And this is where this is dead honest truth. This is where God has a plan, okay? And I firmly believe that's true for all of you, all right? In my son's case, the day after he's rejected, our high school football coach, Bob Johnson, many of you might know his granddaughters who are here at JSerra, okay? Tatum and Presley are they play volleyball. Anyway, he was our high school football coach. He picks up the phone and he calls ESPN headquarters, talks to Chris Mortensen, a famous guy who's on TV all the time for NFL football. He says, Mort, I got a kid. If I send him out to school there, can he be your intern at ESPN? So bottom line, we ended up sending him to Trinity College in Hartford, Connecticut, a little 2,000 liberal arts school, great education, but it's 16 miles from ESPN headquarters. He went to work he interned for 4 years at ESPN, went to work for ESPN, still works for ESPN. He's been to 10 Super Bowls. He goes to every Monday night football game. He's the guy who sits next to the guys who are on TV, and he makes them sound really smart. He really is. But it's a great life. I mean, he loves sports and everything about it. Had Notre Dame said yes, I'm a firm believer he would not have had that opportunity. So all you can do, and students, this is directly at you, all you can do is control, are you a good person? Are you a good student? That's it. And I'm saying everything else, let it go, okay? And it's easy for me to say that at my age, and it's hard for you to believe it at 14, 15, 16. And I bet your parents have been telling you this all the time. Just don't worry about the other stuff, because you can't control it. So just worry about being who you are, being a good person. So if I tell you then, Notre Dame at one time, this is about 6 years ago, we rejected 6 kids who had perfect SATs, 1600s on the test. And we rejected 200 class valedictorians, the best kids in their high school. And again, it's easier when I'm doing this, and I'll throw a random shot. Is there anybody who could explain why we do that? Raise your hand if you have an answer. Take one shot. Go ahead.
Because they didn't have other things, like they just had grades.
You nailed it, okay? In my old person terms, they were nerds, okay? They were one-dimensional, okay? And Notre Dame is all about well-rounded. Now, this is my graphic skills here. I'm going to try to talk on this. So if you talk to any college admissions officer, okay, wherever you want to go, one of the things they'll refer to it, and they may use a little different numbers than I'm going to do, but you got this big pie chart, 25% is academics, 25%. And you're sitting here just terrified thinking your whole life is about grades, right? And if you don't get the best grades on everything, wow, what good is it, okay? You gotta believe now, you can't do it without grades, okay? But when you're talking about the whole decision, only 25% of the decision comes down to grades. Think about it. If you were an admissions officer, if all you cared about was grades, okay, 100% of the decision was based on grades, your job would be very easy. It really would. It'd just, okay, I got 1,000 applicants, I'll line them up, best grades on down, okay? And I'll take the ones at top. That's not how the real world is, okay? So, to your point back there, well-rounded, okay? Now, this is usually when I'll have the discussion with people, okay? I'll ask them, I'll say, what's your GPA? And they'll say, 4.2. Okay, and this is the trick now. So they'll usually say, oh, do you want weighted, unweighted? Stop with that answer, okay? Give the highest number that legally belongs to you, okay? Don't waste your time, okay? Trust me, if these people care if it's weighted, unweighted, no. If you're a 4.3, 4.3, okay? And say it with confidence. If you're a 3.8 and that's what your GPA is, 3.8. My point, one of the things I want you to learn tonight, own who you are, okay? Don't measure yourself against somebody else, all right? There's always gonna be somebody else who is perfect, right? Don't worry about it. You are who you are, but you're very unique. Now, what makes you unique comes back to what makes you well-rounded. Okay, so then I ask people, okay, what makes you well-rounded? And usually the answer comes back in a very soft voice, okay? And I usually want people, in fact, I insist that their parents are always around, all right? And a lot of this is because the parents need to hear the conversation that I'm having with the student, and vice versa. The students need to know that I told it to their parents as well. So usually the conversation is, I'm involved with the church, and I put in maybe 30 hours last year, and I work at the food kitchen, and I play sports. Okay. Very soft-spoken, okay, that's great. And immediately I'll just go back and I say, okay, I've only known you for 10 minutes now. You want me to tell you what your biggest problem is? And they're almost in tears at that point. So they say, oh my goodness, he's already identified who I am. And I point at the parents, okay, and I said, that's your problem, okay? They have taught you to be humble. And the parents said, what's wrong with that? I said, no, it's actually a compliment to the parents. I want every student to be humble for the rest of your life, except for that one day when you apply to college. You cannot do that to yourself. You need to market yourself. I'll use the term brag about yourself, market yourself, whatever you feel comfortable with. But if you don't do it, it's not fair to yourself, or it's not fair to the colleges. They can't read your mind, and they're certainly not going to have the opportunity to meet you in person. So the best or worst example you might use of this, I had a young man who, and it's amazing. So I've been having these talks with potential Notre Dame students forever, okay? And I even had one, and it was way too early. They had me meet with a 4th grader. Way over the top, okay? That's no. Don't do that. But I love meeting with 8th grade and above because you all can still make adjustments, okay? Not that you're not perfect now, but at least you can hear about different tactics, strategies, and if it's right for you, great, okay? If it's not, don't worry about it, okay? It's just some old guy talking to you, okay? It doesn't make any difference. Okay, so this young man, I sit down with him, he'd actually already applied to Notre Dame, so there's nothing I can do to tell. Senior, already, he's applying, but I'm sitting down and I'm talking to him, he is sharp, okay? And you can just tell, and when you're sitting down with people and your parents can tell you, when they sit down with your friends, okay, there's something instinctive or whatever you want to call it, the parents say, that kid is got something going on, okay? They're very polite, okay, very educated, but you just know. So I'm sitting down with this kid, sharp. I said, what are you proud of? He goes, well, Mr. Roberts, when I got my Eagle Scout certificate, I had to do a project to do that. And he goes, and I'll shorten it. He goes, I got to take 15 little Cub Scouts, and we did this project. We raised $15,000, and we gave it to that charity. I'm going, that is awesome. How did you tell Notre Dame? I definitely didn't tell Notre Dame. I go, why? He goes, well, they teach you as being an Eagle Scout, you don't do it to brag. You don't do it to stuff your resume. You don't do it because you just want to, make other people feel worse about themselves because you're so good. He goes, you do it because you want to be a good citizen. I go, well, I'm not thrilled with that answer, but I understand. How did you tell Notre Dame about you being an Eagle Scout? He goes, I definitely didn't tell him about that. I go, oh, why? And he goes, exact same thing. And again, it was really special that he was given the answer. He was so sincere. He goes, it's all about citizenship. And I said, I appreciate what you're saying, but that's not fair to the colleges, okay? To the colleges that he applied to, because this is something he had started when he was, age 5. So for 13 years, he'd been doing this activity. And to not tell a university or a college or anybody that you weren't into that, that's just wrong. It's just not fair. Now, he did not get into Notre Dame. I followed up on him. trust me, he's a rock star. He's doing just fine. But it led me to creating, okay, get ready students, I'm gonna give you a homework assignment to protect you from being this Eagle Scout, okay? And nothing you need to write down, you're gonna memorize this, and if you do this, and I've been doing this now for the homework assignment probably for the last 7 years, and I've had a lot of positive results where they come back after they've graduated from high school, gotten into college, graduated from college, and they said it was the one thing that reduced their stress level the most during the process, okay? So, the secret sauce, you ready? Okay. So you're gonna go home and we'll go and, don't you love my written skills here? Okay. So you're gonna go home and at the top of the page, you're just gonna write down, what are you proud of, okay? What are you proud of? That's your prompt, all right? And with that, this is you by yourself, no parents, no siblings, just you by yourself. I just want you to brainstorm to yourself and think of anything in your entire life that you've ever done that you're proud of, okay? How many of you in 4th grade had to build a mission? Did anybody have to build a mission? Raise your hand. Not that many. I know they've kind of lessened doing that. When my kids went through, every kid had to build a mission, okay? So, but my point is saying that if you could remember back to your 4th grade years and you were proud of it, put it down, okay? So you're gonna end up, boom, put it down, write all these things. If you did something in a tennis match, you won a big match, okay? And you're proud of that, write it down. Don't judge yourself, okay? Don't judge yourself at all, just anything you can remember. So let's imagine you're gonna end up with 50 items, okay? And we're doing this so the math is easy on me. You're gonna list 50 items. Only then do I want you to share that list with your parents, all right? Share it with your parents. I guarantee they're gonna add at least 30 items onto the list, okay? Because parents see things through a different filter, which is great. Things you totally forgotten, humor them. Let them write it down on your list, okay? So now you're gonna have this list of 80 items. 80 items. Only then do I want you to rank them. And the ranking that I care about is your ranking, the student, okay? Love your parents, okay, but this is your life right now, okay? You rank it from 1 to 80, what you're most proud of. And obviously what you're gonna come up with, 1 through 10. You're gonna come up with a top 10. You're gonna come up with a top 10 of, these are the 10 things you are proud of, right? If you will commit to me that when it comes to application time in your senior year, that somehow you're gonna let the university you apply to know about all 10 of those things. Now, how are you gonna do that? You're gonna include the little story either in an essay, you're gonna include it in the Common App. Sometimes you attach like a resume of things you've been involved with, or if you wanna make people really happy, the people who write your letters of recommendation, those people get besieged every year. Would you write a letter for me? And these are counselors, they're teachers, and they love you, they want to do their best. Boy, they would sure love it if they knew something really personal and important that they could include in their letter about you. So if you sat down with them and said, Mr. Smith, would you include this one thing that I'm proud of? Let me tell you about it, okay? They're gonna love it, okay? And they'll include it in their letter. But my point is, if you include all 10 of those things and you communicate that to the schools, then you should feel very comfortable that, and the only reason I had to do that, because this is the only way I know how to do it. If these are the 10 things you say that you're proud of, right? And you apply to Notre Dame, we use that school, it could be any other school, and Notre Dame comes back and says, we don't care about any of those 10 things. You don't want to go to Notre Dame, okay? That's the other thing I'm going to have you reframe in your mind right now, all of you students. You are the gem in this process, okay? And by gem, these universities should be fighting to get you into their doors. Right now, your mind's thinking completely different. Oh my God, I'm going to be lucky if that school says yes to me. Forget about that. Without you, these schools go out of business, okay? I know it's impossible for a young teenager to think that way. I know it is. But if you'll adopt that attitude, then again, focus on, are you a good person? Are you a good student? Then the stress is going to go away. I can't eliminate it, and it gets stressful, I guarantee. But if you'll do that, it will work. And so what I've had students do is that once this is I call it a fluid document, a living document. So let's say next week you ended up doing this homework assignment. Great, you got the top 10 now, okay? But next week you do something fantastic. Add it to the list, and if it ranks up in the top 10, then that top 10 becomes new, okay, every time. But by the time you're a senior, you're gonna get to August of your senior year, and if you actually have this list, you're gonna look around at your fellow high school seniors, and they are absolutely in panic mode. Oh my God, what am I gonna write about? Okay, and they're struggling, and they're asking friends, how are you gonna answer that? And you're sitting there, I already know the answers to the test. Because all you're gonna do, you're gonna take whatever prompt is on the essay prompt, and you're gonna weave in one of your answers, okay? Because that's what you wanna tell the universities. Don't try to beat the system. Everybody thinks, okay, I know exactly what the colleges want to hear, okay? I'm gonna tell a story about I saved 20 kids at the beach the other day, okay? Don't try to do that. Be very honest with yourself and prepare yourself by doing this. So I'll take a quick question. Any questions on the homework assignment? Does that make sense to everybody? Just common sense, right? And again, what I should have led off with this and let all the parents know that things like this are exactly what your parents been telling you for decades, for a decade that you've been alive, for 15 years. And listen to them, because you may not believe it in your anger moments. They're your best advocates for you. They really have your best interests at heart. Listen to their experiences, listen to the people that they may want to connect you to, and it'll go a long way. I'm sorry, did you have a question? Yes?
Yeah, so for the list, does it have to be prestigious, or is it like, maybe like sentimental, or is it
Oh,
anywhere in between?
that's a beautiful question. So his question was, does it have to be prestigious, like, did you save 3 lives? Does it? And my point is, it's what's important to you. I only care about your point of view. So and prestigious is a good word, in my mind, they would be the 10 most prestigious things that you're proud of, okay? Now, the other secret to this is that you can really get a head start on your essays, that now you have these 10 things. And give me a quick show of hands. Who are 9th graders coming up? Raise your hand. Sophomores coming up? Juniors coming up? And seniors coming up. Okay, we got a great cross-section here. Okay, and what I'm saying is that once you have this list, every one of them, you should be trying to create a narrative or a story around each one. A little paragraph, okay, that you could say, okay, if I had to tell somebody about why I'm proud of number 1, this is why. And where that comes into play is that, I'll use an example. There was a young lady from Newport Harbor, okay? And I'm sitting down, it was her junior year in high school, sitting down, what are you proud of? She goes, I'm a beekeeper. Okay, that's a first for me. I go, tell me why. And that's always the big question. It's not that you just do stuff, it's why did you do it? And she went off this great example of, you know, without bees, we would literally all die. They're part of the food chain. Okay, and she went into detail how ecologically we need to protect them, we need to do this and that. It was a great answer. She definitely included that in her essays. She got into Notre Dame, but where this ties into the story is that, first off, and I'll take a step back, a lot of you, I'm going to say a lot of you don't even know where Notre Dame is on the map, okay? It's in the state of Indiana, 2 hours from Chicago, okay? You probably think it's this huge university. 8,000 kids undergraduate, 8,000. It's a small school, okay? We have 4,000 grad school, but it's a small school. So we only get 23,000 applications each year, okay? And of those 23,000, we only say yes to, or we only want 2,000 kids to attend. So every freshman class is 2,000 kids. So we're upsetting, you know, do the math, 21,000 families every year. So I went into the admissions office and I simply, we're kind of a group, anybody remember Katie from Newport Harbor? 3 of them said, the beekeeper. I want that to be an aspirational goal for each of you, not to go out and get bees. Okay, don't run out and get bees. But you want to create a story that you're so passionate about that it's unique, so that if I went into Notre Dame and said, ah, that's the guy who did this, okay? So think of each one to make them a beekeeper type story. Okay, and then the other thing I would tell you, as much as you can personalize your essays, your stories, do it. Too often, again, students, and I'll call them kids, get hung up. They're trying to beat the system. They think, okay, I'm told that I need to do X number of service hours during my time at JSerra. Okay, so they think, well, if I'm supposed to do 120 and I do 140, great, okay? They think that's gonna make the big difference. That's not what it's about. If you're doing it just to check off the boxes that I did numbers, what I'd rather have you do, so I'll have students that say, yeah, I served at the autistic camp down the road with horses. That's great, but they would do it in numerical time. I spent 80 hours there, okay? You know, I don't necessarily care about the time, okay? Can you tell me a story of a young person that you helped? Oh, yeah, let me tell you about Susie. I remember Susie, I started writing lessons with her when she was, 6 years old, and when we first engaged, I couldn't get a word out of her at all. 2 years later, okay, we're communicating where it's, I go, that's the story. Tell Notre Dame, tell these universities about Susie. Don't tell me that you did 140 hours, okay? Don't care, okay? Now, that again, take it, you're hearing this opinion from me. You may hear it from 20 other people. Oh no, it's all about the numbers. You pick and choose what's right for you, but you need to be comfortable. My point is, think of yourself as the admissions officer, and you have to read 1,000 essays, or 1,000 applications every year. Are you gonna remember the 80 hours of service, or are you gonna remember the Susie story, where you literally changed the life of a child? And I believe all of you have unique experiences like that if you'll kind of dig into your memory banks and say, I did have an interpersonal reaction with those families. I'm gonna harken back to my story about the Eagle Scout, is that I have the same problems with athletes, all right? And that may sound counterintuitive because a lot of times we think it's the athletes is the most confident, okay? They have no issues at all. When it comes down to it, they are just human beings, okay? And it could be the best soccer player, and I'll get, yeah, I played soccer and we won this event. And they really downplay it because people tend not to brag about things that they really love, that they're really passionate about. They almost think begrudgingly, I shouldn't brag about it because I like it. I like playing baseball, I like playing basketball. Again, it's not fair to the universities not to know that you started youth soccer at age 4, okay, and you stayed committed to it, and you did it all the way up to age 18, and you were awarded, you became a captain. So don't dismiss the things that you're passionate about, and this will protect you, okay? This will protect you, because I would think if you played 14 years of soccer, it's gonna make your top 10. Okay, so by definition, if it makes your top 10, you're gonna tell the world about it, okay? So, I'm gonna close with just some quick thoughts, and then I'm gonna take some questions, and the only way I'm gonna regulate the questions, okay, is that I'm willing to stay here as late as anybody wants to talk individually, okay, but when we have group questions, please do not make them self-serving commercials about your child, okay? And the best one that I've heard, and it's, yeah, I'll make it a little extreme. They stand up, Mr. Roberts, last week my child was finishing up his second novel when he was distracted by 2 drowning children. Of course, he saved them and refused the key to the city that the mayor was going to offer because he was too humble. Do you think I should include any of this in my essay? Don't ask those questions. Okay. And honestly, that's what a lot of question and answers turn into. The parents specifically, they're not looking for an answer, okay? They kind of want to make a statement towards it. Fight that urge, okay? Now, I'm willing to take them one-on-one, okay? We'll do that, but no. In fact, if anybody does that group thought, everybody raise their hand. No. Don't ask that question. Okay, last but not least, let's step back and talk about what we were saying. Early action, regular action, restricted early action. That's one of the most common questions that I get, and like I said, what it really says, and let's just divide it, early action, regular action. Are you gonna apply by November 1st, or are you gonna apply by January 1st? I would encourage you, do not let the reason that you're applying early is that you want to know by Christmas. If that's your sole motivation, and I get it, everybody wants to know by Christmas where they're going to school. Don't let that be the reason that you apply early. Okay, and the reason I caution you is that in Notre Dame's case, so again, we get 23,000 applications every year. 7,000 of those come in early action, okay? We don't give away all those 2,000 slots in the early action. So can you imagine the level of academics that those first 7,000 are, okay? 4.5, 4.6, 4.7, okay? They're 1,600, they're perfect on their SATs. And here you're sitting with, you got a 1,400 on your SAT, which is great, okay? But if all of a sudden your 1,400 is mixed up with, against a 1,500, a 1,600, you're gonna look like you're weak. Now you cannot assume that they're just gonna take yours and defer it and put them into the other pool, like they did my daughter. Don't use my daughter as an example. She was fortunate that that happened, that they actually just deferred her into the regular action. Of that 7,000, 1,500 are said, no, you're not, you're done. And you don't get a do-over. You don't say, oh no, I was just kidding. Okay, throw mine into the regular pool. No, you're done. So there's no second chance. And I've had this discussion with parents and they go, we get it, okay, we get it. But then I get a call around December 15th, he didn't get in. I go, I thought we agreed he wasn't gonna apply early. Yeah, you were serious about that?
Oh.
Yeah, I was. Okay, so don't let just getting to Christmas. Now, as quickly as I say that, when legacy comes out, you owe yourself asking the colleges what their legacy policy is. There are some universities that they'll count you as a legacy student only if you apply early, okay? So just ask them the question. Notre Dame, that is not true. They could care less. Legacy, you're a legacy no matter what.
What's the one worth finding? Like, if
So I'll tell you that one.
Okay.
So the point is, make sure you understand the schools you're applying to, okay, and what their rules are. And then she asked the question, restricted early action. And I'll use Stanford as the example, okay? And there are many schools that are like that. Notre Dame is not restrictive early action. So you can apply to Notre Dame early action. And what restrictive early action is, I apply to Stanford, and if Stanford says yes to me, I have to go to Stanford. It's like a contract. Now, there could be worse things on earth, right? Okay. It's a good backup school, okay? But my point, that's the definition of restricted early action. You know up front, and they don't hide it. They say, hey, are you applying restrictive early action to our school? And if your answer is yes, you just need to know that if they say yes to you, you're going to Stanford. Now, I always get the question, would that ever hold up in court? Okay? You don't want to be in that litigious world, okay? You're only 17, 18, don't be fighting those battles, okay? If you really have an intention of going to a restricted early action and you have that, the numbers that would justify it, then do it, okay? But know what you're getting into. So that, I'm glad you brought that up. I think it's critical that you all have an idea what you're shooting for now, okay? And so some of you walked in, I have no clue where I want to go. I'm going to tell you to choose a target, okay? And if there are, and come up with 5 schools, okay? And between you and your parents, come up with 5 schools that just remotely, you've heard of them, okay? And you're curious about them. And then you owe it to yourself. Do some homework on those 5. The reason I tell you that is that too often I get to the point where it's not until their junior or senior year where they say, now I know where I want to go, okay? And I'm not saying it's too late, but you're losing out on an opportunity of educating yourself to a high level. So as an 8th grader, going into 9th grade, choose 5 schools, and it could be your parents' schools. I honestly don't care, as long as you're shooting a target, because it's going to teach you how to research those colleges, those universities. And you may come across and say, I definitely don't want to go there. Great. That's a learning experience. That's valuable. Pick up another one. I always want you to be targeted at 5 different universities, okay? Now, you are going to reach a point where you say, and this could be your freshman year, your sophomore year, junior year, say, these really are the 5 that, wow, if you ask me where I want to go, I want to go to these schools. Start a relationship with those schools, okay? I know it sounds so simple, okay, but I have a challenge not just with this young generation, okay? I could take it to the millennials, I could take it to whatever generation. They don't do it because they think it's weird. They think, I don't need to do that. Or they say, I got this, okay? I got it, okay? No, I want you to think of the universities as being human, or I want you to think of the admissions officers as being human. So if you know, and I'm just gonna use Notre Dame, if you knew Notre Dame is one of the targets, and I would have you walk out of here and you get on the website and you can look up, there is a person who's responsible in the admissions office at Notre Dame for Orange County, right? And all I want you to do is send an email to her, okay, Monica Newland, and say, hey, I saw this old guy from Notre Dame, okay, and I'm interested in Notre Dame. Could you tell me when you're gonna be in Orange County next time? That's it. Okay, that's all you gotta do. What was that, 2 sentences? And it's an email, right? How hard is that? Many of you have already texted 20 people while you're sitting here in the chair, okay? It's not hard. Do that, and then I want you to create a relationship with those universities. With the ultimate goal is that when you apply to the school, your application is gonna come in. That person, at Notre Dame at least, she's like the first gatekeeper that's gonna read your essay. I want her to think, that's the kid who started emailing me 3 years ago, okay? And maybe 2-3 times a year send me an email. Just give an update. Hey, we won CIF in soccer. We did this. I was in the law mag. I did that. It doesn't matter. They're gonna keep it in their electronic folder, okay? And they don't throw away stuff. But my point to you, how hard is that for you to do that? And if it's not worth your time, then I'm gonna say then attending that college probably isn't high on your priority list. Okay, this is not hard labor, okay? It really is not hard, and every university is like it. Now, if you wanna, now as you're getting closer, now you got 5 schools that you really want, somewhere in your, and I don't care, you could start as a freshman, but it's clearly in your junior year, especially males, now I'm gonna get sexist on this for a second, males, if you'll do a handwritten card to anybody on the face of the earth, that will go a long way. Females, it counts just as much, but I'm gonna say a male card is an endangered species. It just does not exist. And when I go into these admissions officers, it's like, it's not the kids, they don't put up pictures of the kids on the walls. It's like they pin up the handwritten card that they got from a student. Okay, and you think I'm joking, I'm just telling you, if you got the time just to spend 5 minutes just to write a note, and you're thinking to yourself, well, what should I write them? It doesn't matter, it really doesn't. Just say, hey, I'm following up, Merry Christmas. At least send a Christmas card, right? How hard is that? But again, I'm gonna put the burden back on you, is saying, how much do you really want these colleges, all right? Well, how much does it mean to you to do it? And if you're not willing to do it, then you've kind of answered the question, all right? So, and then the last thing I'll tell you, so my role at Notre Dame was I was their development officer in Orange County. Development is another term for fundraising, right? So I was raising money for Notre Dame, and in 7 years, I was able to raise $100 million just out of Orange County, okay? The reason I state that to you is that there are tons of Tonys for all these universities around the nation, right? 90% of that, so $90 million of what I raised went towards financial aid, right? So I don't want any of you to walk out of this room saying, if you have 5 of those schools, and some of them are very expensive, right? Notre Dame is $70,000 a year, all right? Add it up, that's big money, right? But most of the colleges that you're talking about are need blind when they do admissions. Need blind means when the admissions officers get the information, the application, they have no clue about the financial status of the families. They're just looking at it as a candidate, okay? Who has the best mix of academics and well-rounded, okay? That's the cutting line. That's what they determine. So Notre Dame, they say, okay, we want these 2,000 students to attend here, okay? So then get accepted first. My point is, if you really want that college, get accepted first, right? With the acceptance, you're gonna get, based on your FAFSA, which is the financial aid form that you'll fill out, that does tell about your family's financial resources, and they will send with their acceptance letter, hey, you're accepted into Notre Dame and your financial aid packet is this, okay? At a Notre Dame, and it's again true at many, many universities, Notre Dame says that no student will graduate from Notre Dame with debt of more than $22,000 total. And you're saying, how can that be? Okay, and it's because, now, don't get me wrong, there are families that they're paying full, they pay everything, right? They can afford it, right? But between the money that financial aid is available, you should not have to pay more than $20,000 of student loan. And I always say, if $20,000 is a lot, it's a car, okay? It's like a car payment that you have. And I don't think that's a huge expense. And this is me talking, but my point is, don't be scared by the price tag. Get accepted first, and then you can work with the university to see what they can afford to help pay you, all right? So I've had so many kids that said, I didn't apply because of the price tag. And these were students who clearly demonstrated financial need. I knew they would get scholarship after scholarship after. But because they didn't even apply, they didn't even know what they could have gotten. Okay? So I'm gonna open it up to questions, okay? Last thought. 23,000 students applied. We say yes to, call it 3,700. 3,700. We say yes to 3,700, and we only want 2,000 of those to say yes to us. So 56%, 44% say no to Notre Dame. They got accepted, say no. Where do you think we lose those students to? Raise your hand if you know.
Ivy Leagues?
Good. Anybody else? And that's the typical answer. Maybe 11% of them. We lose them to state colleges. And it's all about for financial reasons, okay? And that's okay, and trust me, state colleges are very thrilled to get those 44% to come to the state universities, which is fantastic. So my point is that, you know, not everybody says yes to Notre Dame when we do it. And that's why, from an admissions point of view, they would love for that 56% to go up higher, because when they say yes to you, they'd like to have a good confidence level that you might say yes back to Notre Dame. It's true at every college. Okay, let's go for some questions.
I have 2 questions.
Okay.
Number 1, SAT scores and ACT scores are still evaluated.
Beautiful. Okay, SAT, ACT. Thank you very much. That was the one that I wanted to lead into. So the beauty of COVID for a lot of students is that SAT and ACT, at least at Notre Dame and for many schools, are optional for the next 2 years, okay? By the time some of you are there, I don't know what the status will be, but the whole idea of SAT, ACT, even before COVID, a lot of colleges were going away from that. And the reason they were going away from it is that too many students didn't have the same opportunity to take the test as many times as some of the students would take. So you have students who would take things 5 times, 10 times, and I'm not saying, hey, you do what you can do, right? Okay, there's nothing wrong with it, but you had some families who, they couldn't, they'd just take it once, all right? So there was a lot of inequity when it came to that, and I'm not judging anything politically correct or anything, just I'm telling you factually, like University of Chicago, even before COVID had gone away, they said, no, we don't want your ACT, we don't want your SAT. But let's live in the real world today. When you're going to take your ACT, SAT, and I would tell you both, I'd tell you to take each one at least once, right? Take the ACT once, and I know you take the pre-ACT and the pre-SAT, I'd tell you to take it real at least once each time. A light bulb's gonna go off in your head and say, I like one or the other. Okay, it just will. Some will feel more comfortable. It's the way they phrase the questions. And so use my math here. So I'm gonna say, the light bulb went off and said, okay, I'm gonna take the SAT. Now, I'm gonna talk out of the other side of my face here real quickly, where I said one of the big problems with SAT, ACT, why it's not fair, is people take it multiple times, all right? I'm gonna recommend that I run 3 of your Saturdays. I want you to take it at least 3 times, okay? And let me explain why, because the term super scoring, right? Super scoring. So I'm gonna use SAT as an example. A perfect SAT is 1,600. 800 on math, 800 on verbal, right? So let's say the first time you take it, I look at you and you say, which one do you like, math or verbal more? Verbal, great. So she takes SAT, and on verbal she gets a 700, and on math, she got a 500, okay? So her score was 1,200, right? She'll take it the second time. I guarantee she's gonna do better. You're more comfortable the second time. So she goes up to 725 on verbal, all right? And she gets up to 600 on, okay, on the math. So now we're sitting at 1325, great. I say, take it again, and I'm gonna tell you, don't even worry about verbal. Ignore it. I don't even care if you answer any of those questions. I just want you to relax and say, this is a math day for me. All I wanna do is math. No stress at all, I don't care about time limits, I'm doing math. And because she does that, she ends up getting a 700 on her math, and on that day, she ended up getting a 500 on verbal, okay? So she thinks she did bad, but no. Super scoring means you take the best score ever. So you take that 700 on verbal, you stick it with the 725, the 725 on verbal, and the 700 in math, and you walk away with a 1425. That is super scoring, okay? And so, and the reason they do that, all colleges care about is that at one point in time in your life, did you have the knowledge? Okay? Because there's such stress on Saturdays when you're taking the test, okay? You can't do it. So think about it the same way. ACT is exactly the same analogy. It's just 18 and 18, right? It adds up to 36, okay? And I'll share one other story, and I will get you. There's a person who graduated from Notre Dame who got a 13 on the ACT. 13 out of 36. Okay? Oh, okay. And I've had a lot of hard talks with parents where, you know, I'll talk to students and I'll say it this way. First off, they'll say, I had one person who got a 22 and they took it 4 times and 22 was it. And I said, I don't think Notre Dame's the right place for you, okay? And the reason I say that is that you don't want to go to a place where you're gonna be struggling, all right, and that you're not gonna thrive. And I encourage that at whatever college. You wanna go to a place that you're not stuck in the room because you're terrified about the next test. You wanna go to a place where you can, okay? And so I'll have those hard, this one person who got a 13, okay? The story I'm gonna tell you is that you need to focus on what's your end result. Begin with the end in mind. If your goal is to graduate from Notre Dame, does that mean you have to be a freshman at Notre Dame? No. You can go to another university, right? You can prove yourself at another university, say, hey, I went to this university and I got a 3.7 and above GPA, and then that 13 is irrelevant. So that's what happened. She went off to another university, transferred in to Notre Dame, okay? And she flourished in college because, again, your parents are telling you, I'm sure you've seen it, there are kids who are very stressed out by testing. So don't let that be the ultimate obstacle. Begin with the end in mind. If you want to graduate from Notre Dame, from Harvard, from any college, focus on that and how are you going to get there? Yes?
What do admissions departments think of these 7 to 8 weeks virtual summer school classes? How does that compare to taking the year-long class at school?
Okay, the question is, what do they think of the 7 to 8 week summer school classes versus taking a full class at school? I'm going to back into it, and hopefully I touch on your answer, and see if I get to it. Is that at the end of the day, you should feel very fortunate that you're at JSerra. All right? Universities, colleges, they have a profile on every single high school. I can't imagine one that they don't. Okay? And the reason they have that is that they expect that wherever you're at, you're going to take the most rigorous courses that you can. Now, don't get me wrong when I say that. They're going to look at JSerra, and I'm going to make these numbers up, that during your 4-year period, you could have taken 20 AP courses, okay, 5 each year. If you took 20 AP courses, they would think you're crazy because you could not do anything else in your life. You could not have a real life at all. You couldn't do any extra sports. You couldn't do anything. So, 20, no, they don't expect to take 20. 2, yeah, that's a problem, okay? Because a person who took 2 AP courses during their entire period, they did not challenge themselves. They were focused on, I want to get the easy A, okay? I'll do basket weaving. Get the easy A, and that'll be good enough. It's not. So when I say it's a blessing that you're at JSerra, they do provide you rigorous opportunities. So I'm going to encourage all of you is given a choice between taking an easy A and taking an AP or an honors course, take the harder course. And I always use the example, it's better to get a B in an AP honors course than an A in a real easy course. The real answer is, as a parent will tell you, it's still better to get an A on that AP honors course, okay? You can do that, okay? But the way I'm going to answer that, it's almost, and I've had that question with different admissions people, they don't care. They really don't care. It's, you do with it, especially in the COVID environment, okay? Because remote learning, you had to take courses either during the summer, some of them had to take courses at junior colleges. You've got to do the best with what you can and keep it in context. So don't think that you're any less of a student that you took a summer course just to check the box, okay? But you sure better have done well on that summer course, okay? So don't slough off and say, it's only a 6. Yeah, if I get a B, no, get the A, okay? Get the A. Does that answer what you're looking for? Okay. Questions? Yes.
I have a question. JSerra is very rigorous academically compared to some other schools.
Yep.
So when colleges are looking, are they taking that into account that like one GPA
Absolutely.
is not necessarily equivalent to another GPA?
So I'll reiterate what I was saying is that, for example, my kids went to Mission Viejo High School. Didn't offer as many of the rigorous programs that a JSerra does, okay? So, but it's in context of where you're at, okay? So if at Mission Viejo you took the most rigorous courses that you could, you sure better do well on them. At JSerra, because there's so much rigor, is that they're not gonna hold it against you if you challenged yourself. So it's impossible for me to ever say that you can get to the apples to apples comparison. All schools are absolutely different. I was having one conversation, I said, what's your GPA? She goes, 98%. I go, what does that mean? She goes, no, 98%. I go, you don't have like a 4.4, 4.5? No, she goes, I don't even know what that is. In their school, they rank their kids literally like it's a report card. Okay, it's on a scale of 100, so 98 is awesome, right? I go, I want to meet 99, not 100. Okay, I want to know who they are. But no, so every school, they'll take their time to do the due diligence of what it is. But I love your question, and it's going to lead me to the thing, and all these things, I feel like I'm the elder again saying, you know, learn how to fish this way. Don't be a victim, okay? Don't be a victim in any of this college conversation that you're thinking about. And when I say that, don't go looking for excuses of why you might not get in or why you didn't get in. Again, it's something you can't control. All you can control are you're a good person, you're a good student. When I bring up the victimhood, it's so often, and of course, I never hear it from students who get in, right? There's no victimhood there, okay, but somebody who has equal grades, at least they think they do. And it usually comes down to equal grades, because they're trying, that's the easiest thing for parents or students to compare. I have the same grades as Tommy. Tommy got in, I didn't. It must be because you name whatever you want to name, okay? His family's so rich, okay? His family's so poor, okay? There's nothing you can do about that conversation, so don't allow yourself to look for excuses. Don't do it, just be the person. My comment when parents say that, hey, I know that Tommy got better grades than me or didn't get better grades, I'll say, okay, let's talk about the 75% of what makes Tommy or Susie well-rounded. Remember, academics, it's only a small portion. And the other fun part is, I hear about that. The best example I'll say why academics, it's not irrelevant because it's critical, right? Is that I've never heard of an essay on an application that was written about a good grade. Never. I got an A in math. That never shows up on an essay question, right? Never. But that's where everybody's tunnel vision is right now as a student. Parents, if you think I'm telling your kids not to focus on academics, that's not it, okay? Academics is it's a major ingredient, but it's 25%. So what can you do to help your kids really bolster what's well-rounded? Yes, ma'am.
Okay, speaking about the versatile child, when they're later in the game, does it help them to do internships or work experiences if they know exactly what they want to study?
So the question
Especially
is,
if we have the magnet programs here.
Yeah, the question is internships tied in with the magnet programs, and the other questions I get that every college, and Notre Dame does the same, every college offers some form of, how many of you happen to go here through Lion Engage? Did you do that? Anybody go through Lion Engage? It's kind of where we, during summer school, 6th and 7th graders will come here and get exposure to JSerra. So colleges do that all the time. So Notre Dame has what's called summer scholars, okay? Summer scholars, you go back to Notre Dame on campus, spend 2 weeks, you pick a course of study, it could be business, whatever it is, and great. I'll have parents ask, well, is that how they get accepted? So if I send my kid to summer scholars, is that? And so I'm gonna answer your question by saying, it's all what you do with your experiences. You're gonna have kids who don't do any internships, okay? And they don't have anything to write about, doesn't hurt them at all. I'm gonna have kids who do internships, and all they're gonna do is come back and say, I did an internship at this law firm. I don't care. Admissions offices don't care. It's what did you do at that time? Now, while I was on my internship, I got exposed to X, the Smith case, and I'm using a law example, and because of that, I learned that my passion is now in law. So it's how you translate all your experiences into a quality story. I'm gonna take 2 more questions because it's getting hot in here.
What are some extracurriculars that are like viewed as higher up than others?
It's a great question. And what are some extracurriculars that are viewed higher up than others? I'm gonna go back to my just continuous answer. It's how you translate it into a quality story, okay? And it doesn't matter. Now, I'll have athletes, and I'll pick on athletes again. They'll say, I don't have enough time, okay? They got me at camp, they got me at summer, whatever. The best, in my opinion, the best extracurricular or service program that you can get involved with is something you're already passionate about. So I had a student from Servite, okay, tennis player, loved it, very active. He started his own nonprofit with 3 other tennis players, and they did nothing but have free tennis lessons for 5th and 6th graders in their local neighborhood. That is a great experience, okay? It kind of checks the box, yeah, they're giving back service, but I thought that was gonna be it. What they did is that it became a story about one of those students, okay? And that's what came out of the essay. So that's a long way of saying there's no wrong answer. I'm gonna almost say there are wrong motivations, okay? So if your motivation is just to keep your parents happy and say, okay, I went to the food kitchen, Mom, okay? Don't do it for that reason, okay? But I would encourage you to say to your mom and dad, what about, can we get involved in X? And let's go do it as a family because I think we could make a difference. And there's plenty of need out there. Okay, last question, group question, then I'm gonna hang out here as long as you want.
Tony, first, thanks for your time tonight. Thanks for great insights. Just a question on, you mentioned universities are profiling student at JSerra and other schools. Is there an intersection between the proactivity of profiling and JSerra promoting? I mean, especially if we go east, a little further east than Indiana. Are there schools knocking on JSerra's door saying we'd like to increase our exposure?
And this is like a T-ball pitch that you would give me this. Okay? This is beautiful.
You can pick.
Okay, so this is kind of next steps that I'd recommend for these families who, and I really do appreciate you showing up on a beautiful summer night, is that, okay. You're the customer in this process. I talked about you as being the gem that all colleges should be fighting for, all right? You're coming to JSerra. I want you to expect the best information that can be provided to you by your counseling department, right? Okay. I'm serious about that. It's a 2-way street. It's a partnership though, okay? If you're expecting counseling to reach out to you and say, I've got all the answers, okay? Or I'm gonna let you do Naviance, okay, which is one of the, many of you have done it. I'll say it allows you to look at different college options. I'll put it in that account. If you're just willing to say, okay, I'm listening to you, I'm gonna do this, and you're not engaging with counseling, don't do that to yourself, okay? It's a partnership. You're the customer, let them serve you correctly, okay? Demand excellence. Don't let anybody squelch your dreams. I'm not saying counseling would do that, but I would say that in general. If you talk to your friends and you're saying, I want to go to USC, I want to go to UCLA, and they just put a damper on that, no way you're going to get in there. Don't let that happen to yourself, okay? And don't do it to others. I would also tell you that, okay? Because it's very vicious what kids will do to kids, all right? So don't do that. But back to your point, one of the things we have, Myra Castro. Myra Castro is our university relations and college counselor. Her job in life, when she wakes up, her job in life is to engage with colleges all over the United States, East Coast, West Coast, even some overseas. And the idea is, in the scheme of things, JSerra is still a relatively new school. We're only 20 years old. That's a baby amongst Notre Dame's 1842, okay? So got a ways to go to catch it. But her job is to develop relationships with those universities to say, let me tell you about JSerra, let me tell you about their portfolio, let me tell you about some great examples that we have of athletes, of Law Magnet, what we do with Law Magnet. So that's her role of doing that. So I would encourage you, and this can parents, kids, parents, as much as I can encourage you to let the students drive the car right now, okay, drive the bus, you're their best advocates. If you see them not aggressively navigating into the counseling world, nudge them, nicely nudge them, okay? But don't accept no for the answer. And I'm telling you, not just counseling, in general. A lot of you are so intimidated by teachers in general, right? You say, oh wow, I can't talk to the teacher, okay? He or she might not like me or whatever. They're not gonna help me, I'm just a student. Don't do that, and this is all the way through college. The best, your parents are the best, if I have to have a hierarchy, okay? Parents are the best. Teachers should be right behind your parents. They want to help you, but they've got 20 to 30 students that they're focused on. But trust me, of those 20 to 30 students, only, I bet if they ever have 5 students out of their class actually come talk to them and say, what do you think? Or heaven forbid if you ask them, when you were deciding where to go to college, how did you make that decision? Let them tell you. What's it hurt, right? It doesn't cost you anything, just a little time. And somewhere along the line, you're gonna find one of the teachers who said, wow, that is the coolest experience I've ever heard of. I want to pursue that university, okay? So again, next steps, please do engage yourself with the counseling department. One thing that I have out here, we have some sign-up sheets, and here's my definition. For you to show up on a Tuesday night, beautiful Tuesday night, you're engaged. This is an engaged family. You're into it. If you want to be involved in different things at JSerra, some of you may not, and that's okay. We have what's called JSPA, JSerra Parent Association. You didn't even know it, but you're already members of it. Okay, you've already paid to be, your tuition pays for you to be it. If you want to be involved in any way, okay, and we've got some different things of recommendations, but if you think of some different ways, I can speak as an elder, your experience in high school will be so much more fulfilling if you get involved, okay? I was like the booster president at Mission Viejo High School, the PTSO president. I was the helicopter parent, okay? I really was, and I'm okay with that. The kids are out of therapy now, so it's okay. But some of my best relationships were formed during those volunteer hours. So do stuff that's fun. And thank you so much for taking the time to care about your kids. Thank you.